Hey guys, it's Jane. It's Friday today. It's April the 1st, so that's a little bit exciting. It's nearly 2 weeks since I've been here and I haven't got very long to film this, so I've got to run. So let's get on with it. The first thing I wanted to say was in my last Friday reads, I said that I thought I probably would be starting Max Gladstone's First Last Snow, which is the fourth in his craft sequence books. And I read the preview and I was really into it and I was about to press buy when I saw the price. That ebook is selling in Australia for $29.39. Which most of the ebooks that I buy, a lot of the books that I read from the library. Most of the ebooks I buy are about the $10 mark. I remember gulping a little bit with the new Brandon Sanderson that I have to read for the BookTube SFF Awards is going to be $16, but like $30, no, I think I'll wait a little bit longer on that one. So instead, I read Babylon Steel by Gaie Sebold. I picked this one up after Thomas from SFF 180 mentioned it in his Overlooked Fantasy Babbles video. I'm not going to belabor this. It really wasn't for me. And I've got lots and lots of thoughts about it, but I don't want to spend the first 5 minutes of this video telling you why I didn't like a book. So I'm just going to skip on over that. And if anybody's interested, ask me and I'll write about it in the comments. How about that? The next book that I read was a reread. It was Max Barry's Lexicon. Max Barry is a local Melbourne author and I've read all of his books. This one is my favourite of his. I hadn't read it for a couple of years and I just felt like a reread. This is a stonking great science fiction action story. It opens right in the middle of the action and it doesn't let up. So you have to do a little bit of work getting orientated because he only drips the exposition in throughout the story. You don't kind of get a gentle draw in at the beginning, but it's got a intriguing premise. Partly it's set in Australia, which, I kind of like that too. There are some connections between this and Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson, hacking people's brains with neurolinguistic programming, and there's a similar thing going on in Lexicon. They're a group, this sort of a shadowy group who over centuries have worked out ways to be super effective persuaders of other people. They call themselves poets. Because they're really good with words. One of our central characters in Lexicon is a young girl who's a street kid, basically, who is recruited by a poet. She's working as a sort of a con artist, taking people for money, and he realizes that she has a gift for this kind of work, but she doesn't really fit in the organization and goes rogue. And then there's this other thing that happens with uncovering a bare word. And a bare word is something which goes beyond mere persuasion and actually allows you to take over the conscious mind of another person. And it's like the ultimate weapon. And yes, there's all sorts of different kind of things going on in this story, but I think it's really well structured and a gripping premise and likable characters, and yeah, it's a really great one. If you haven't read Lexicon by Max Barry, it's a few years old now, but I would highly recommend that for a thrilling contemporary set sci-fi adventure. The next book that I picked up was Pat Murphy's The City Not Long After. This was also a reread, but I hadn't read this in so long that I remembered the title and I remembered it fondly, but I didn't actually know what the story was about. I'm pretty sure I read this when I was back at uni. So The City Not Long After is that thing which seems like it's so overwritten now that there's nothing new to be said. It's a dystopian future novel. When she was writing it, it was not such a well-worn trope, so there were still new things to be done. And in fact, The city not long after has a completely different tone and sort of style to most modern dystopian future sort of novels. It's a lot about politics, and about the different ways that the different groups of survivors organise themselves and come in conflict with one another and resolve those conflicts. So it's set in and around San Francisco. San Francisco is the city of the title. There was some sort of plague. Only a very small fraction of the population survived. The story is set kind of 20 years later or something like that. So a number of our main characters were very young children or not born when the plague hit. There were also older people who do actually remember life before the event. So there's a mix there. In San Francisco, the city itself seems to have taken a hand. Some people describe this story as magical realist. There are sort of seemingly ghosts or other non-human actors who have chosen to keep certain people in the city and reject others. And it's become a kind of artists' commune, anarchist syndicalist kind of community in San Francisco. Outside of the city, there's a whole bunch of different things going on. There are military groups in one area. There's some sort of religious fundamentalist sort of groups in another area. The crux of the story is that a self-appointed general has decided that San Francisco is going to be the next place that comes into the fold of his particular power grab. And the people of San Francisco, the artists of this commune, are trying to work out how to respond in non-conventional ways. I really enjoyed this story, and I can highly recommend it as a thought-provoking read with a unique twist on a dystopian future novel. After I finished that, I read Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I read this because it's one of the books that was nominated for Best Novel for the BookTube SFF Awards for this year. I really wasn't expecting to enjoy this anywhere near as much as I did. Lots of people have said things, and I've written things on the discussion board on the Goodreads group, so I'm not going to talk about this in great detail, but I'll say that I actually really did enjoy this story. It's not my sort of kind of story generally, but I thought it was really well done. So if you've been tossing up whether or not to open it up and give it a try as part of your reading for the awards, let me encourage you that I enjoyed it, and you may well too. After that, I started Aurora Rama, which is just a book that I picked up from my local library. The author is Jean-Christophe Valtat. It was the first novel that he'd actually published in English, that he wrote in English. He's published previously in French, is my understanding, but this novel he actually wrote in English to be published in English. It has a fascinating premise, but it just didn't work for me. I DNF'd it at about the 1/4 mark. It's set in a kind of steampunky city called New Venice, which is inside the Arctic Circle, with sort of Victoriana and Art Nouveau kind of architecture and dressing and pneumatic mail tubes and all that sort of stuff. The story, it seems to me, as far as I got, that the crux of the story is actually about politics. This city was set up maybe 60 to 100 years previous to the story, and originally set up as a non-conformers sort of place that was outside the more general rule of law in the rest of the world. And so it was much more an anything goes kind of a place. There's lots of drugs and all that sort of stuff going on, and that was part of the accepted culture of the place. But now time has passed, and the structures that were initially set up that were intended to protect the freedom of the citizens of New Venice are maybe, becoming a little bit older and a bit more set in their ways, and thinking maybe having a little bit more law and order might be a good thing. And so things are changing in New Venice, and we have certain characters who are, working against this or whatever. There was actually a lot of good stuff going on, and I was really intrigued with a number of parts of it. But the sexual politics of this book, I just couldn't swallow. I read one too many scenes where nubile, young, disposable female characters throw themselves at older, wiser, actually important to the story characters, and I was just, no, I don't need that in my head. Yeah, I will leave this behind. So that is the books that I have finished, either to the end of the book or to the end of my reading of the book. I just started yesterday a Dave Weber novel, Off Armageddon, Reef. I picked this one up because my library seems to have the entire series available, and it's a space opera-y kind of thing, and I thought I could do with having with the amount of money I've been spending on books lately, I could do with having a complete series that I can read from beginning to end from my library. So I'm giving this one a try, and next time I come back I'll tell you how it's going. The other thing I picked up at the library the other day was Lee Child, number 19 in the Jack Reacher series. Yeah, it's April now, which is the month that I'm due. I'm pretty much due any day now, and I can hardly walk. So I'm looking for books that are less challenging to the brain, and this I think could be right up that alley. That's what I am reading at the moment. I hope you're all well, and I will talk to you soon with any luck. See you later. Bye.